Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. Hamas delegation to arrive in Cairo for ceasefire talks. Hezbollah says will work with Lebanon army to implement ceasefire. Cyclone Fengal likely to make landfall on Saturday. Red alert in parts of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. Flight operations suspended in Chennai. Zelenskyy proposes truce formula. Take Kyiv, held Ukrainian territory under NATO umbrella. Let the other rest with Russia and begin diplomacy. And India's national broadcaster Doordarshan announced as official broadcast partner for Hockey India League 2024-25. Peace process for Gaza is set to resume today as Hamas delegation will arrive in Cairo on Saturday for talks with Egyptian officials on a possible ceasefire in Gaza. The visit comes days after the United States said it would begin new efforts with Qatar, Egypt and Turkey to revive Gaza ceasefire talks. The United States has also announced a new diplomatic effort with Qatar, Turkey and Egypt to reach a Gaza ceasefire and the release of hostages taken during Hamas's October 7, 2023 attacks on Israel that set off the current fighting. The only ceasefire so far in November 2023 saw the release of about 100 hostages by Hamas and its allies in exchange for 240 Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. The announcement came 2 days after a ceasefire went into effect between Israel and the Lebanese group Hezbollah. The head of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, pledged on Friday to coordinate closely with the Lebanese army to implement a ceasefire deal with Israel. In his first televised address since the ceasefire came into effect, Qassem said Hezbollah had approved the deal with the resistance strong in the battlefield and our heads held high with our right to defend ourselves. The ceasefire stipulates that Hezbollah will withdraw from areas south of the Litani River and that the Lebanese army will deploy troops there as Israeli ground troops withdraw. And DD India correspondent Jessica Taneja joins us to give us more inputs on this. Hi Jessica, so far Hezbollah chief Naim Qassem has affirmed commitment to the deal. Will the ceasefire hold? That's the big question.
That's correct. That is the big question. Will the ceasefire hold? We've seen in the recent 3 days since the ceasefire deal was enforced with US and France's effort as part of a tripartite agreement. But so far there have been some firing from the end of the Israeli side that we've seen towards Lebanon. Sporadic incidents also reported. Nothing confirmed so far as yet, but not in terms of the violations that was agreed in the 13-point that were established for this particular ceasefire deal between Israel and Lebanon. So far, it seems that the deal seems to be holding. But it's only the 4th day, and we don't know as to what really happens in the next few days, because Israel says that it would take military action if it sees any violations of the ceasefire deal, and that comes, quote unquote, with US's understanding. So it's difficult to say as to how Israel would act in terms of ensuring its own security and safety, and moreover, bringing back those 60,000 Israeli individuals who were displaced from the border with Lebanon, and the same would be for Lebanon to relocate all those individuals who had been living around the blue line. The buffer zone would now then go towards the north of the Litani River. So there have been complex negotiations in place which have brought this to fruition, but what happens next is certainly difficult, but not an all-out war. That is something we don't pick up from the region yet.
Okay, and Jessica, it's been 4 days since this ceasefire took effect. What can we expect on the talks for a potential ceasefire in Gaza?
You know, there are still bombings happening in Gaza. There are people who have been killed in air raids, and while the military operation of Israel continues in Gaza, it's becoming more and more difficult to ascertain as to what the agreements would reach to. Now, so far what we do know is that King of Jordan, King Abdullah, held talks with the Egyptian President Abdel al-Sisi as well in Cairo. And now the mediators for the deal for ceasefire between Israel and Gaza would of course include the likes of Turkey, would include Qatar, also Egypt, and also United States in the mix. Joe Biden's appointee, Amos Hochstein, was on a West Asia tour for the last 10 days to hatch out a deal first with Lebanon, and then of course now potentially moving towards Gaza, where situation seems to be much more severe. We're getting reports of people being killed in various camps as well. So the situation remains grim on the ground for Gaza, but will those complex negotiations lead to something which would end the hostilities in the region? Given the kind of demands we've seen from both Hamas' side and Israel's side, of course the primary one being releasing of hostages, and from Hamas, cessation of complete military activity in Gaza. But while Israel maintains that elements of Hamas still continue to create that turbulence, it will be difficult to halt military operations till the time Hamas has been eradicated completely, like Hezbollah was weakened over the years. And perhaps we look at how the 2006 United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701 was implemented and was the basis of the ceasefire deal. We're yet to see how this one will come together.
Definitely, we'll have to wait and see what will happen, but we'll leave with that. Thank you so much, Jessica. In a latest from Syria, its military has announced on Saturday a temporary troop withdrawal in Aleppo to prepare a counter-offensive against what it called terrorists. The military said the withdrawal was part of a regrouping effort ahead of the arrival of reinforcements to launch the counter-attack. The military also added that dozens of soldiers had been killed or injured in fierce battles with insurgents in Aleppo and Idlib over the past few days. Meanwhile, Russian and Syrian jets on Saturday bombed insurgents who had taken positions in an Aleppo city suburb they had captured on Friday. This was revealed by two Syrian military sources. Syria has been witnessing fierce fight between rebels and the government-led forces. The bombing campaign also targeted towns and villages taken by rebels in a surprise sweep from their opposition enclave to the city. Syrian army closed major roads in and out of Aleppo, issuing safe withdrawal orders to troops in certain neighborhoods. Syrian authorities also closed Aleppo airport and cancelled all flights on Saturday. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said key Syrian town of Sarakib was also taken over by the jihadist groups. Friday's advancements in Aleppo is part of a major offensive launched by Syrian rebels and their allies that began Wednesday. By Friday, opposition fighters led by the Islamist militant group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham captured over 50 towns and villages in northern Syria. Russia, a key ally of Assad, has pledged additional military aid to help repel the rebels, with new equipment expected to arrive within the next 72 hours. The rebels are returning to the city for the first time since 2016. Meanwhile, a video posted on social media shows students rushing down the stairs of student housing at the university in the government-held city of Aleppo after an artillery shell fell. The official news agency of Syria reported death of 4 people in the strike. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has proposed a truce formula to stop conflict with Russia for the time being. The proposed formula seems to be part of his long-announced victory plan that he has been hinting for quite some time. In an interview with UK-based news channel, Zelenskyy has said that Ukraine needs to be given security guarantee by Western nations. He said that this can be done by NATO. Clarifying his proposal, he said that NATO should give security umbrella to the Ukrainian territories that are there in the control of Ukrainian forces. He also said that let the Ukrainian territories which are in Russian control be with Russia. It can be resolved through diplomacy later. To reinforce his proposal, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha has written a letter to NATO Secretariat to extend an invitation to Ukraine to join the military alliance during a meeting in Brussels next week. Ukrainian leader also accepts that NATO membership was not possible when war was on, but the proposal and letter from NATO will boost his credibility at home for any further relaxation to Russia, especially after Donald Trump takes over power in USA. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy also thanked to French President Emmanuel Macron over phone to garner his support on future course of action on Friday. Macron reiterated his condemnation of an escalation in Russia-Ukraine conflict and reaffirmed his support for Ukraine during the phone call. While Zelenskyy mentioned that he had a productive telephone conversation with Macron, he also thanked him for France's readiness to help with generally strengthening Ukraine's air defense capabilities and for general support in speeding up the transfer of Mirage aircraft. All right, joining me on the broadcast is Ashok Sajjanar, former senior diplomat. He's joining us from New Delhi. Ambassador, a very warm welcome on the broadcast, first of all.
Thank you very much, Siddharth. Pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, Ambassador, Volodymyr Zelenskyy has proposed a truce formula to stop conflict with Russia or to end the hot stage of the conflict. What the formula is, we'll talk about it a little later, but how do you analyze it?
Yeah, I think whatever elements are available at the moment, it definitely appears to be a significant forward movement from the victory plans that Zelenskyy has given earlier. The first, your viewers would recall, a victory plan, so-called Ukrainian victory plan, was given in 22. And the latest one was when Zelenskyy went to the US and he met President Biden also. And he gave him the victory plan. And in that, of course, one of the significant elements was that all the territories occupied by the Russian Federation, Crimea in 2014, and the 4 oblasts, the 4 regions of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, that all those territories would be restored back to Ukraine. But the silver lining that I see in this current plan is that he's saying that this is a truce plan, not a victory plan, and that the fate of Crimea and the 4 regions will be discussed and decided later through diplomacy. So it is coming close to what I think it had been suggested by Mr. Trump in terms of peace for land for peace plan that he had in mind. So I think this does, on at least the indications that are available, seems to be a move forward from the earlier victory plans that Mr. Zelenskyy has shared with the US and with other NATO members.
Okay, so do you see it as a ray of hope, don't you?
I definitely do see it as a ray of hope because, you know, in the earlier instances also, one or two other elements, if I could mention, he said that, you know, membership of NATO to Ukraine, an invitation to join NATO, that should come, that should be forthcoming. Right now, what he has mentioned is that the intention of NATO to invite Ukraine to become a member, so not a full-fledged invitation, but the intention to invite Ukraine to become a member of NATO. And he says that that would be helpful in terms of, you know, sending out a message to Russia in that context. So I think that is also significant. Of course, there are other elements where earlier he's spoken of comprehensive non-nuclear strategic deterrence that should be provided to Ukraine, and economic help and facilities should be provided to Ukraine. I'm sure those will be elements of this truce plan, but they have not really been made available in the public domain as yet.
Okay, Ambassador, you were also mentioning this. Zelenskyy said that NATO should give security umbrella to the Ukrainian territories that are there in control of the Ukrainian forces. Do you see it happening?
Well, not really. Not really. I think this would be some sort of a negotiating point with you know, the NATO countries, because I think the NATO countries have said very clearly that till the war is going on, they would really not be able to extend either to join NATO or become a member of NATO, although they have indicated that they are fully committed to Ukraine's ultimate membership of the NATO and to providing its security guarantees, but not while the war is going on. So possibly the rationale for Mr. Zelenskyy to suggest to submit this truce plan is that once peace is restored, once there is truce, once there is ceasefire, at that time the negotiations for both the membership of the Ukraine's membership of the European Union, as well as to become a member of NATO, at least that can get some traction, and that there can be some forward movement in that.
So you don't see it happening anytime soon, at least till the conflict is going on?
Yeah, not till the conflict is going on, but I think this would be a very important element if what Zelenskyy says that the territories that are under the control of Russia at the moment, they can stay under the control of Russia for the time being, and their future can be discussed through and decided through negotiations at a later stage. I think that is a very big move. That's a very forward movement, and that could also interest Russia also to come into the negotiating table, because I think it needs to be realized that Russia is also not happy with this war. There are still about 1,500 square kilometers of Russian territory in the Kursk region, which is under Ukrainian occupation at the moment, and has put in place about 10,000, 11,000 North Korean troops to fight Ukraine there. So obviously it is also under pressure, and if there are these long-range missiles that continue to be used against the Russian people, then the support for the war and support for Mr. Putin could also take a nosedive. So I'm sure Russia and Mr. Putin and Sergei Lavrov, they are all looking at the implications and ramifications of a further escalation of the conflict.
In fact, Ambassador, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha has also urged his NATO counterparts to issue an invitation to Kyiv at a meeting in Brussels next week to join the Western military alliance.
Yeah, meaning I think if the invitation is there as an observer or to see how the functioning of NATO is going on, what the discussions are going on, possibly that could become a reality. But what Ukraine is demanding for an invitation to join NATO, I don't see that forthcoming anytime soon, because NATO and particularly President Biden and the UK Prime Minister, they have said categorically that till the conflict is on, there will not be any invitation coming to Ukraine to join NATO. Although they mentioned that as the long-term proposition that Ukraine should be given security guarantees and should be assured membership of NATO in future after the conflict is wound up.
Definitely, Ambassador. My final question before I let you go: how do you analyze the entire situation which is prevailing in that particular region, and how do you see its future implications?
Well, I think it's the situation rests on tenterhooks, because the sort of threats that we are getting from Russia, from Mr. Putin, that he's been firing hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles. Orishnik has been used once, and there are threats that it might be used again. The nuclear threshold has also been lowered by the Russians, and we have seen that there have been 100 missiles, 90 drone attacks on infrastructure in Ukraine, on power systems. So I think it bodes very badly. Ukraine has its back to the wall, and I think that is the reason why we have seen this latest truce plan coming out of Kiev, and we saw that 1 million people were without electricity, and with the winter coming in so very quickly, I think the situation doesn't look very good at all, particularly for Ukraine, but I think Russia is also feeling the heat.
All right. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for taking out your valuable time and joining us on the broadcast. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Britain's Parliament voted in favour of a new bill to legalise assisted dying on Friday. After a passionate debate in the House of Commons, the lower house of Parliament, 330 lawmakers voted in favour of the terminally ill adults bill, with 275 against. Under the bill, mentally competent, terminally ill adults in England and Wales who are assessed by doctors to have 6 months or less left to live would be allowed the right to choose to end their lives with medical help. Campaign group Dignity in Dying hailed the result as a historic step towards greater choice and protection for dying people. But Christian Concern called it a very Black Friday for the vulnerable in this country. Vote counting begins in Ireland with an exit poll indicating a tight finish between the two main parties, with partial results expected throughout the day. Voters chose a new 174-seat lower chamber of parliament, the Dáil, with housing crisis dominating the campaign. After voting concluded late Friday, the pro-Irish Unity Sinn Féin party had 21.1% of the vote, neck and neck with the centre-right Fine Gael, led by outgoing Prime Minister Simon Harris on 21%. A final result, however, may take days as Ireland's proportional representation system sees votes of eliminated candidates redistributed during multiple rounds of counting. An explosion on Friday evening damaged a canal in northern Kosovo, supplying water to 2 coal-fired power plants that generate nearly all of the country's electricity. Recovery works continued into the early hours of Saturday. According to Kosovo Interior Minister, the explosion was a terrorist act and that part of the canal was damaged. There were no immediate reports of injuries and the cause of the blast was not clear, Minister added. Meanwhile, Kosovo's Prime Minister Albin Kurti on Friday accused neighbouring Serbia of being behind an explosion that damaged a canal in northern Kosovo.
Shtetëror janë të angazhuara për të siguruar menaxhimin e situatës, rekuperimin e dëmit dhe zbardhjen e plot.
State bodies are engaged in managing the situation, repairing the damage and fully clarifying the case. The attack was carried out by professionals. This was another criminal and terrorist attack which we believe comes from gangs directed and orchestrated by Serbia, which has both the interest, the readiness and the ability to cause such attacks and damage. In this particular case, by using a significant amount of explosives in a critical location where repair is difficult.
Në rastin konkret duke përdorur një sasi të madhe të eksplozive.
Georgian police fired water cannon on demonstrators as thousands take to the streets for the second day to protest the government after Georgia's Prime Minister Salome Zorabishvili set to halt EU accession talks until 2028. 107 people were arrested during the second day of protests. European Union accession is overwhelmingly popular in Georgia according to opinion polls, and the move saw thousands mass outside the parliament building in Tbilisi, dispersed by riot police using water cannon and gas. The freezing of application talks has been met with widespread anger in Georgia, which has the aim of EU membership written into its constitution. Protesters carrying Georgian and EU flags pressed towards the Soviet-built fortress-like parliament building and hurled fireworks at police officers. Georgia's President Zorabishvili expresses solidarity with a resistance movement that is seeing thousands rally against the government's decision to deny EU membership talks amid a post-election crisis.
Today I can say with confidence that a resistance movement has begun. It is your movement, initiated by you, without anyone's instructions or demands, a spontaneous, peaceful, constitutional resistance movement. I stand in solidarity with it. We are entirely by your side and we will remain united until Georgia achieves its goals, to return to its European path, secure new elections and ensure that its future is protected once and for all.
World Trade Organization Chief Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was reappointed for a second term at a special meeting in Geneva on Friday. Okonjo-Iweala, a former Nigerian finance minister who made history in 2021 by becoming the WTO's first female and first African Director General, announced in September that she would run again, aiming to complete unfinished business. No other candidates ran against her, and all of the WTO's 166 members agreed by consensus to a proposal to reappoint her. Okonjo-Iweala said she was looking forward to working with the incoming Donald Trump administration and that she saw common ground between them on areas like intellectual property rights.
I'm grateful to the membership for the election to a second term. We have a full agenda to deliver for the people of this world that we are here working for and for the planet. And we fully intend to get to work immediately, no stopping, to try and deliver on these results. I'm grateful for the honor of serving this organization, for the trust that the membership has put in me. Until we get specifics in terms of what is planned, I think it will be a bit premature to try to pronounce on these issues. We look forward to working with the administration. We are grateful to the administration we worked with now. We are looking forward to working with the new administration.
30th November marks 167th birth anniversary of Jagdish Chandra Bose, whose contributions in the field of science has left an everlasting impression. DD India's Priya Yadav reports.
There is absolutely no denying that polymath Jagdish Chandra Bose was really ahead of his time. His work laid the foundation for today's high-speed 5G internet nearly a century before it became reality. Jagdish Chandra Bose was a Bengali scientist, botanist, and a physicist. From plants to physics, Sir Bose showed the world that India had its own way of doing science. He was the founder of modern science in the Indian subcontinent. Bose Institute, that was set up in 1917 by Jagdish Chandra Bose, is Asia's first modern research center devoted to interdisciplinary research and bears a century-old tradition of research excellence.
Bose Institute continues to lead Indian science for the past 107 years, fulfilling the dreams of our founder director Acharya J.C. Bose.
Jagdish Chandra Bose made a remarkable discovery that found out that plants can move in response to stimuli. For his remarkable contributions in the field of science and technology, he was awarded with a number of honors, not just in India, but even outside of it. In 1903, British government made Bose a Companion of Order of the Indian Empire. In 1904, Bose became the first Asian who was awarded a US patent. In 1912, Bose was made a Companion of the Order of the Star of India. In 1917, Bose was knighted. In 1920, Bose became a Fellow of the Royal Society. He was the first Indian scientist to receive this honor in the field of physics. In 2012, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers recognized Bose as the father of radio and wireless communication. On Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose's 167th birth anniversary, let's celebrate this global visionary whose contributions continue to impact every aspect of modern existence. Priya Yadav for DD India.
Still to come on DD India NewsHour. Severe flooding continues in southern Thailand. 13th edition of exercise Agni Warrior concludes. Stay tuned for more. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Some weather-related updates now. Landslide in eastern Uganda has killed at least 17 people, with rescue operations underway to try and find the 100 trapped in the deep mud that engulfed the area. The landslide occurred on Wednesday in Bulambuli district, about 300 kilometers east of the capital Kampala, and buried dozens of homes across several villages, with vast area covered in deep mud where homes and schools once stood. Community members wailed over the remains of their recovered loved ones. The Ugandan government has directed citizens living in landslide-prone areas to relocate. The Red Cross and police are conducting a search and rescue operation. The East African nation has been hit by unusually heavy rainfall since October that has triggered widespread flooding and landslides in some areas. The recently heavy rains caused flooding in the northwest after a tributary of the Nile River burst its banks, prompting the Prime Minister's office to issue a disaster alert, saying that main roads across the country had been cut off. Residents in southern Thailand were rescued from their flooded homes by members of the Thai army as severe flooding continues in southern Thailand. Flooding triggered by heavy rains have left 4 people dead and affected more than 240,000 of households in southern Thailand. The military rescuers used boats to transport the flood victims through waist-high floodwaters. Sundnukar volcanic fissure eruption on Ireland's Reykjanes Peninsula continues to flow since November 20th. The eruption is the 7th since December and comes after years of increased seismic activity in the region. The persistent eruptions have led researchers to question whether this is the beginning of a more prolonged period of volcanic unrest in the region, with some experts suggesting that the eruptions could continue for a while, reshaping the landscape and potentially having long-term impacts on the local ecosystem. A cyclone Fengal intensifies over the Bay of Bengal and heads towards landfall near Puducherry. Tamil Nadu authorities have issued urgent advisories and implemented key safety measures. Cyclone Fengal is predicted to make landfall on Saturday afternoon with winds potentially reaching speeds of up to 90 km per hour. India's weather department predicts that cyclonic storm will move west-northwestwards and cross North Tamil Nadu Puducherry coasts close to Puducherry, with a wind speed of 70 to 80 km per hour, gusting to 90 km per hour during the afternoon today. The approaching storm, which is expected to bring heavy rainfall and strong winds, has led the state government to close schools, colleges in several districts, halt public transport services. Cyclone Fengal, which intensified into a cyclonic storm on November 29th, is predicted to make landfall between Karaikal and Mahabalipuram near Puducherry around midday. Meanwhile, flight operations at Chennai airport has been suspended due to Cyclone Fengal.
Cyclone storm Fengal is centered over southwest Bay of Bengal, about 110 kilometers southeast of Chennai and 120 kilometers east-northeast of Puducherry. As a cyclonic storm with wind speed of 70 to 80 km per hour, gusting to 90 km per hour. This wind speed is expected to commence from evening and may continue till night over the coastal districts of North Tamil Nadu and Puducherry.
All right, DD India correspondent Anbarsan is joining us live from Tamil Nadu to give us more updates on what's happening there. Hi, Anbarsan. First of all, just tell us what is the update you're getting for us as far as Cyclone Fengal is concerned. Anbarsan, can you hear me? Am I audible, Anbarsan? Anbarsan, if you are hearing me, I want to, can you tell us the updates as far as Cyclone Fengal is concerned? All right. Go on.
The latest update from the Indian Meteorological Department has said that the Cyclone Fengal has been the distance of around 100 kilometers, both from Chennai city and also from Puducherry. And it is predicted that it will reach the shores of Tamil Nadu around 2 p.m. today. But it's around 10 km per hour. So it's slowly going towards these coastal districts. And as the cyclone reaches near the rainfall, heavy rainfall is registered across KTCC region and also various parts of coastal city. And the important Chennai airport is fully shut down for till 5 p.m. and 5 p.m. and after resume maybe after the situation they evaluated. After that, the Airport Authority of India may take the resuming the services of air services in Chennai Airport. And also the railway services, particularly the suburban networks of Chennai, are fully stopped, and particularly the MRTS, which is Chennai's beach to Velachery station, are fully stopped, and particularly the Chennai Central to various express trains connecting various parts of country has been staffed before the Chennai city. So the passengers are a little bit having a struggle to reach the Chennai city, and also various relief camps are established by the state and also central authorities. The NDRF, SDRF in full swing, and they are reaching the location where the low-lying areas of Chennai and other cities where the waterlogging has found. And also the Chennai City Corporation also stationed various boats, and also particularly the genset where the water they can taken from the...
Okay, and Anbarsan, what specific precautions are being taken by Tamil Nadu authorities to ensure public safety?
Yeah. Particularly today, Chief Minister M.K. Stalin visited that emergency center in Chennai where all the emergencies activities are running, and particularly the Deputy CM also visited that, and they given instruction to all the district collectors of coastal district, particularly Mailadurai, Nagapattinam, Kadalur, Viluppuram, and also neighboring Chengalpattu and KTCC region. So wherever the rainfall is registered and the low-lying areas, the state authorities are given instruction to take in over the water, and also mostly they are given announcement of holiday to schools and holidays, and also particularly the IT companies, they given an option for work from home. So entire Chennai city is shut for entire today, and also tomorrow there is a heavy rainfall is also predicted. And given the IMD prediction, red alert as given to the 7 districts of Tamil Nadu. So we can see that this cyclone Fengal is slowly moving towards inlands of Tamil Nadu, particularly Salem and the Viluppuram districts. Once it reaches inside the Tamil Nadu, the rainfall may be slow. So after that, the precautionary and rescue and relief activities may begin.
Okay.
Right now, the electricity services and some parts of city is stopped due to the precautionary measurement, and also helplines are announced by the various district authorities to reach public, and also public can reach the authorities to get any help they wanted.
Okay, Anbarsan, last question before I let you go. Can you provide us an update on the status of flight operations?
As a flight operation, we talked with the Airport Authority of India. They said that the runway, which is in Chennai Airport, that is above the Adayar River. So the heavy rainfall is given so much water into that. The runway is flooded with that. So they can't run any flight service in between that. And also whatever the inbound air flights are turn into the nearby airports like Chennai, Hyderabad, and also various cities. So the all flight services are till now is suspended, and until the further developments came, and after that they will resume the services of flight service, particularly in Chennai Airport.
Definitely, Anbarsan, the situation is not that good there where you are right now. We also hope that you also take care of yourself, and we really hope that situation improves as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining in and providing with your valuable inputs and for your analysis as well, Anbarsan. Now, the 13th edition of exercise Agni Warrior, a joint military drill between the Indian Army and Singapore Armed Forces, concluded on Saturday in Maharashtra. The 3-day exercise held from November 28 to 30th featured 182 personnel from the Singapore Artillery and 114 from the Indian Army's Regiment of Artillery. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman attended the credit outreach program that was held in Madhubani in the eastern Indian state of Bihar on Saturday. As part of the event, the Finance Minister handed over the copies of Constitution editions and also suggested the need for a grand Sita temple in Mithila. Sitharaman emphasized the importance of development and cultural preservation and handed over copies of the Constitution's new editions in Maithili and Sanskrit, highlighting the goal of Vikasit Bharat by 2047 when India completes 100 years of independence. FM Sitharaman reiterated Indian PM Modi's focus on the upliftment of 4 key groups: the poor, women, farmers and youth, emphasizing their pivotal role in India's progress. India and Asian Development Bank have signed a $98 million loan agreement to enhance plant health management in India's horticulture. The project aims to improve farmer access to disease-free planting materials, boosting crop yield and quality. It addresses climate challenges by helping farmers adapt to rising temperatures and changing pest behaviors. Clean plant centers with advanced diagnostic labs and trained experts will maintain disease-free materials. A clean plant certification scheme will accredit private nurseries and certify planting materials. The Ministry of Agriculture, National Horticulture Board and ICAR will oversee the project implementation. India's Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, emphasized the importance of teamwork and camaraderie during the passing out parade of the National Defence Academy's 147th course in Pune on Saturday. Air Chief Marshal Singh was the reviewing officer for the passing out parade, which marks the culmination of a rigorous 3 years training at the NDA. Let's take a look at other stories making news. The second Crime Literature Festival of India has begun in Dehradun, hosting authors, filmmakers and law experts. The 3-day event features dynamic sessions by prominent figures and honors Hindi crime writers. Open to all, the festival also highlights young talent through short story and film competitions. Assam's Tokhlai Tea Research Institute has introduced Reduvid bugs to combat tea pests naturally. This eco-friendly method reduces reliance on chemical pesticides, promoting sustainable tea farming. The bugs bred in advanced labs target harmful pests, threatening tea yields and quality. Chandigarh hosted a launch for Telemedicon 2024, emphasizing AI and virtual healthcare. Experts discussed telemedicine's role in health promotion, rural outreach and lifestyle management. Running until November 30th, the conference underscores AI transformative impact on global healthcare. Australian film director Philip Noyce was the recipient of this year's Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award at the 55th International Film Festival of India in Goa. In an exclusive conversation with DD India correspondent Deepika Mehto, Noyce talked about his admiration for Indian filmmaker Satyajit Ray. He also shared his concerns regarding budget constraints in film production and the reach of Indian cinema. Listen in.
We have with us Mr. Philip Noyce from Australia. Sir, thank you so much for joining us in this exclusive broadcast, and many, many congratulations to you for this prestigious award.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So when we talk about, first of all, the award and your experience here in India, what do you have to say about it? Because you've been sharing a lot of stories about Satyajit Ray and what kind of inspiration you drew from the legend.
We in Australia were very influenced by his films, particularly the Apu trilogy. Even though it was made before I was an adult, I was still a boy when in the 50s when he made the Pather Panchali. But you know, he was legendary in Australia because we grew up on big American films, extravaganzas, and Satyajit Ray taught us to look for the heart, to make stories from the heart, to be small in scope but big in heart. We in Australia saw Ray's films and said, okay, this is how we can make films. This is how we can make the smaller budget films. So, you know, we dreamed of making feature films.
Budget has been one important aspect, not only for Indian cinema, but for global cinema. What is your take on that?
At the moment, the film industry all over the world is in a little bit of chaos, particularly in America, but I suspect in every country. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about technology and the evils of AI and how AI is going to rob writers and rob actors. As a director, I would say, thank goodness for AI, because that's the way in which we can also, you know, make big films for small budgets by using technology.
What's your take about the production, the kind of transformation that India has witnessed, which is now being seen in the world at different film festivals, sir?
Well, you know, The revolution that's taken place in film distribution has aided all countries outside America, because now we can see so many Indian films on Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on. So before we were starved, we had to go to film festivals to see Indian films. And now we can turn on our TVs and we have a huge selection, and that's a good thing, a great thing.
How do you feel on receiving this award from India in India?
Well, you know, it's embarrassing in a way, because compared to what he did, I think that I'm a pretender. This was a man whose films I greatly admired, who inspired me, who inspired my generation of film directors in Australia. Receiving this award named after that great filmmaker, it's humbling.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for joining us for this exclusive conversation, and many congratulations to you once again for the prestigious award.
Thank you.
And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Stay with us as we'll tell you about the first ever Tibetan Artists Festival. India's national broadcaster Doordarshan partners with Hockey India League. Former world number 2 PV Sindhu cruises to finals of Syed Modi International Super 300 badminton tournament.
छोटे थे तो माँ प्यार से मूर्ख बुलाती थी, मूर्खानंद, और ये तो सच में मूर्ख समझते हैं। कस्टम डिपार्टमेंट वाले बन के कॉल कर रहे हैं और कह रहे हैं कि आपके पार्सल से ड्रग्स पकड़ा गया। सब समझते हैं, पहले डराएंगे फिर कहेंगे पैसे ट्रांसफ़र करो। अब प्यार से चाहे जो बुला लो, पर मैं मूर्ख नहीं हूँ, याद रहे। यूपीआई सेफ है, यदि आपको भी कोई इस तरह डराना चाहे तो उसे कहो मैं मूर्ख नहीं हूँ।
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And Dharamshala hosts the first ever Tibetan Artists Festival, uniting over 30 artists, musicians and writers from around the globe. The event provides a platform for showcasing Tibetan struggles and countering Chinese propaganda. The 3-day festival celebrates Tibetan identity through art and storytelling. Sectarian clashes in northwest Pakistan claimed 13 more lives, according to local government official on Saturday. The total death toll from the recent violence in the Kurram district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province has surged to 124. The unrest began last Thursday when 2 police escorted Shiite Muslim convoys were ambushed, leaving over 40 dead. Since then, 10 days of intense fighting have paralyzed the region, shutting down major roads and mobile networks as the death toll continues to climb. Sri Lanka's consumer prices fell by 2.1% in November, the highest deflation rate recorded by the economically fragile island nation since 1961, official data showed Saturday. An unprecedented financial crash in 2022 brought months of consumer goods shortages, with inflation peaking at nearly 70% that year. Since then, a $2.9 billion bailout loan from the International Monetary Fund, tax hikes and other austerity measures have slowly made headway in repairing the island's economy. Sri Lanka's central bank said inflation was likely to return to its target level of 5% in the coming months. Sri Lanka had already seen deflation of 0.8% in October and 0.5% in September. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake, who was elected in September, has vowed to maintain the IMF bailout program negotiated by his predecessor that includes higher taxes and cuts to state spending. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te has departed on Saturday for his trip to the South Pacific that will include a 2-day transit in the US, his first since assuming office. Though few details about his itinerary were made public, Lai Ching-te will go on a week-long trip to visit the Marshall Islands, Tuvalu and Palau, 3 diplomatic allies of the self-governed island in the Pacific. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Slovenia's capital, Ljubljana, officially inaugurated the holiday season with festive ceremony, caroling and countdown culminating in the illumination of its Christmas lights on Friday evening. The decorations included space-themed lights with galaxies, shooting stars and flying saucers. Voi An city in Vietnam produces 65,000 to over a lakh kumquat trees annually, generating significant income for local farmers, especially during Lunar New Year. With favorable weather and increased market demand, farmers expect to produce trees that could yield good profits this year. The historic Maîtrise de Notre Dame de Paris choir school resonated with solemn hymns as students rehearsed for the inaugural performance, marking the cathedral's reopening on December 7th and 8th after the devastating 2019 fire incident. In sports, India's national broadcaster Doordarshan has partnered with Hockey India League to make hockey a household celebration in the country. Hockey India League is set to commence on 28th of December 2024. This year's edition is historic as it marks the inaugural session of the Women's Hockey India League alongside the much anticipated men's competition. Renowned for its legacy of promoting Indian sports, Doordarshan will bring the electrifying action of HIL to millions of viewers across the country. The league will feature 8 men's team and 4 women's teams competing across Rourkela and Ranchi, showcasing top-tier talent from India and across the globe. Doordarshan's partnership with Hockey India extends to all national championships. Going forward, all Hockey India national championships across various categories as well as all hockey events in India owned by Hockey India will be telecast on DD. Two-time Olympic medalist and former world number 2 PV Sindhu defeated compatriot young shuttler Unnati Huda in the semi-finals of the Syed Modi International Super 300 badminton tournament on Saturday. Sindhu defeated Huda in straight sets 21-12, 21-9 to storm in the finals. On Friday, Sindhu defeated China's Wang Dai 21-15, 21-17 in the semi-finals. Big setback for Australia ahead of the second test at Adelaide from December 6 as Josh Hazlewood was ruled out. According to a Cricket Australia statement, the speedster has a low-grade left side injury. Sean Bott and Brandon Doggett have been added to the Australian squad. Australia is already without regular all-rounder Cameron Green, who was ruled out of the 5-match series after opting to have surgery on a stress fracture. Hazlewood was Australia's highest wicket taker in the first test, taking 5 wickets over 2 innings. However, the host side ended up losing the game by 295 runs. And Premier League club Leicester City have appointed Ruud van Nistelrooy as their new manager to replace Steve Cooper on a contract until June 2027. Cooper was sacked with Leicester hovering 2 points above the relegation zone, and the club moved quickly to appoint Van Nistelrooy. The Dutchman was assistant manager at Manchester United and took interim charge when Erik ten Hag was sacked last month before Ruben Amorim took over. And St. Bernard puppy Mudley made her debut in Geneva as the official mascot for the UEFA Women's Euro 2025 that will take place in Switzerland in July next year. Her name is inspired by Madeleine Ball, who in 1965 became the first woman to obtain a soccer license in Switzerland. Ball said she was very proud and that it was a great recognition for her 60-year career in soccer. The St. Bernard mascot puppy, a dog breed from Switzerland, best known for rescuing people in alpine environment, arrived at Geneva train station to meet her fans. She took a walk with them on Lemon Lakeside before leaving for Zurich for another presentation. A 68-member Indian contingent will take part in the 10th Asia-Pacific Deaf Games that will take place in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia from Sunday to 8th of December. Indian contingent left on Friday for the tournament, which is seen as a precursor to the Deaf Olympics in Japan next year. And it is at par with Asian Games for individuals with speech and hearing impairment. Team India will be competing in 7 disciplines, which includes athletics, badminton, chess, judo, table tennis, taekwondo and wrestling. Gone are the days when a local library was a place of hushed tones and reminders to be quiet and keep silence. These days, there are a hive of activity with tech classes for seniors and homework clubs for teens. And in Australia, some regional Queensland libraries have also become a hub for special dance classes. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.